going out there in YouTube land? Dan here from Geekcast Radio doing another comic book review as I continue my look at the new Captain America line with Ta-Nehisi Coates and Linus Francis Yu taking over this book. I reviewed issue number 1, and I liked it a good deal. It had a good foundation of where Ta-Nehisi Coates was going to be going with this title. Had a lot to celebrate, and I think with the second issue, although it's more of the same in the sense of structure and in really plotting, there's still a lot in this that I'm really digging. I really like the voice that Ta-Nehisi Coates has for this title and kind of the approach he's taking. And I think what we're really seeing within this is a Steve Rogers that is struggling on many different fronts. And he's holding a lot of guilt for different reasons, not necessarily just because a version of him took over the world as Hydra, but looking just, I think, in general of, is his ideal, that dream he was loyal to, is it basically betraying him in a way? Did he betray it? And was it ever really existing in a way? And it goes back to him being a soldier, talking about how, when he served, it was kind of what everyone expected to do. Like that was that idea. Like he would do anything for it, and he became this super soldier. And he talked about how he was the only super soldier, but that's not really the case. And we've had clones of super soldiers. We've had cyborgs, and taking kind of what his own accomplishments and kind of using them against him in a way. Like is he just as responsible for these nuke soldiers as his ideals, his success has been twisted and used against him? And it seems like he's focusing a lot on not what separates him from these other, Hydra agents to these new characters, but where their similarities lie. And they too were soldiers. They too feel betrayed by Hydra in a way that they were the ones fighting against him, or a version of him. So it's a very interesting angle to take, because you have kind of where different layers of conflict within this. You have conflict within the Hydra that was there before, these nuke soldiers that were kind of somewhat caught in between the former Hydra agents that are now working for the government because they turned on Hydra. And it just, I think there's a lot going on within this, even though it's really sparse with the dialogue, and that's something I didn't expect for Ta-Nehisi Coates, because reading his past work on Black Panther, he tends to be very verbose, heavy, but I think he's kind of taken a step back, and his work in Linus Francis Yu tie together really well. There's like a poetic rhythm to it. There's a stoicism to it where like nothing is put there that doesn't need to be. Whether it be backgrounds, whether it be specific lines, whether it be words, it's very pointed, like Captain America in a way, where it's just straight to the point, kind of cutting through all the aspects of kind of the clutter and just focusing on that piece. And I find that interesting, because we've seen Captain America in places like this before, especially when the political environment of the world and United States was not ideal. Like we had him being nomad back in the days of Watergate, and there he was disillusioned not because of the people, but because of the government that he served and what occurred. In this, it's not as clear cut. There seems to be more self-reflection in this, and I think we learn pieces of why he holds so much guilt within this, not just because they used him and like the symbols that he holds dear, but in a way wondering if his own selfish desires help this happen. Because if you go back to how he became Captain America again, because people forget he was old for a long time, wondering if that bargain he made in a way led to kind of the downfall of himself and kind of the country, because he made that choice. He was able to become strong again, and now the thing that he used for his benefit is kind of came back and kind of bit him in the butt a little bit. So I find that intriguing, just everything that's here. This is very much like the first issue in the sense of we have Captain America showing up to fight these nuke agents that are terrorizing the world. He then has a conversation with General Ross regarding like his play in this and what he can and cannot do, and how like people don't trust him. And then he also has a conversation with Sharon Carter. So structurally, it's very much the same with the first issue. Like this could have just have been the first issue. So some people might kind of not dig that. I think they're kind of getting a rerun or a rehash of just what they saw before. But I think there are little bits, and I think the reason of that occurring may be showing just kind of the never-ending kind of cycle that Cap is in right now, where he's kind of stuck, just going from place to place. He has no direction, no place to go, until he kind of makes the decision at the end of this. And I was curious about that decision, and I don't want to spoil it, but certain characters will be appearing in the next issue, and it felt like a quick way to. It felt like those were characters that, knowing Ta-Nehisi's coach's past history with them, that maybe they'd wait off a little bit going that route this soon. I'm not sure about. But we'll see. It may not be what we see. And there is also this sequence where we have him literally fighting himself and doing like a kind of a brawling battle. And perhaps that was a little bit too much on the nose, taking that metaphor a little too seriously. But those are really my only major gripes within this. Like I mentioned, I do think some people may not love the fact that it is very similar to the first issue, and they're not getting a lot more information. It doesn't get into kind of the other Hydra aspect and the other characters that we saw in Russia. That's not really touched upon, but I think it's I just find like I mentioned, it is like this poetic dance of where Captain America is currently. And going into this, I kind of wanted them to just forget all about the Hydra stuff, forget all about Secret Empire, just tell Captain America stories. And I guess that's kind of what Mark Waid did. Like, I thought Mark Waid's run with Chris Samney was going to be the aftermath of Secret Invasion, or not Secret Invasion, but Secret Empire. And this is what this really is. And there's a lot of great moments within it. It's not necessarily maybe what you would expect with a Captain America book, because there's not a lot of action. It's a lot of dialogue, but I feel like Linda Francis Yu actually works out well with this, because even though his facial structures don't often have a lot of emotion, I think that kind of plays well, because there is a coldness within this. But him, and even within Steve Rogers and Sharon Carter, there's a distance there for a variety of different reasons. Obviously, it's like they're in this weird conundrum where you have Sharon Carter, who was stuck in Dimension X for forever, and now is like older. Steve Rogers, she thought she knew Steve Rogers, and then he turned into this Hydra agent, but it wasn't really him. So it's kind of convoluted, as comics tend to be. But I think we see their distance there, and how he feels like he's on the outside, because Sharon Carter is working, and she is within working for the government, where he's got no place to go. He has no one to be loyal to, or no one to really fight for. He kind of has to go on his own. So it's always a good place. Captain America's a challenging character to write, because he can become off too much of a Boy Scout. You can lose the ability to kind of build conflict, because he's a very amoral type of person. The key is to placing him in a situation where there's no distinct right choice to make per se. Like, no matter what he does, there is some people can question his motives in a way. So I find this actually kind of paralleling Superman, current run by Bendis, because Bendis, what he did, he took the foundation of what kind of held Superman, his family, that structure he had, and took that away, and now we see Superman dealing with it. And now Captain America is in a similar situation. He didn't lose necessarily his actual family, outside of being stuck in ice, but his literal family, everything that he held dear is not what he once was, and now he's just trying to deal with the aftermath a little bit. So seeing that Captain America get built back up. So I would, if you are a Cap fan, if this is the closest I feel like it's ever gotten to the Ed Brubaker run, with that was more pointed because you're looking straight. There was more about the relationship between him and Bucky, but also dealing a lot with World War II and how that was coming back up. This is solely directed towards Secret Empire, with a little bit, I think, taking aspects of World War II and how we use Nazi soldiers or Nazi scientists to accomplish different things, and how they're using Hydra agents. So there's a lot of parallels to make. So I think that's why it reminds me a lot of Ed Brubaker's run on Cap. I don't know necessarily if it's that good. I know to me that's like the best Cap run ever, but there are, when it comes to thematically, it fits really well within that. And if you were a person who didn't love Mark Waid's run because maybe it was a little bit too stripped down, a little bit too kind of old school and simplistic in a way, this I think has a lot more going with it. But like I mentioned, it's not necessarily hitting you in the face with this is what I'm doing, or there's not a lot of action per se, but it's very, I think, well constructed overall. So I would definitely recommend it for any Captain America fan. And if you didn't read the first issue, you will be fine picking this up. I think this is this is can be read on its own. But all right, well, enough for me regarding this comic. If you want to listen to more of my stuff, check out Geekcast Radio. You can listen to my past reviews. But for now, just remember, comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.